I'm the president of National Interest Foundation. I'd like to thank you all for being with us today. We'll be discussing a very important issue that's rarely in the news, the war in Yemen. I know many of you might be experts in the subject, but there's really a debate where you hear different opinions about this issue. We're supposed to have 4 speakers. 1 speaker had an emergency, could not make it. Flint Leverett apologized. He could not make it. We have Khaled Elgindy from Brookings. He will be the moderator, and he will introduce the guests one by one. Each speaker will have 12 to 15 minutes. After that, he will have a couple of questions, and then we'll allow our audience to speak. Khaled, please.
Thank you, Khaled, from one Khaled to another. Thank you. And thank you all for being here this afternoon. It is a pleasure to be with you, in particular to talk about an issue that, as Khaled pointed out, is one that doesn't get much attention, particularly in the halls of power here in Washington. And so I'm delighted to be with you. I'm not going to talk for very long, but I am going to just say a few words. As most of you know, since 2015, the civil war in Yemen has been aggravated by a Saudi-led intervention and a blockade. We've seen about at least 10,000 Yemenis have been killed, more than half of them civilians, mostly by Saudi-led coalition airstrikes. In addition, there is a massive humanitarian crisis as a result of the blockade and the destruction of infrastructure and so on. At least 2,000 cholera deaths have been confirmed so far, and up to 1 million suspected cases. 400,000 children, this is the statistic that really hit me. 400,000 children under the age of 5 suffer from acute malnutrition. 8.4 million Yemenis on the whole are at risk of starvation. 22 million Yemenis, or 75% of the population, are in need of urgent humanitarian assistance, and more than half of the Yemeni population lacks basic access to health services. Why is this all relevant? Not only because of we're human beings and it is a very compelling humanitarian catastrophe, but also because the United States is an active participant in this crisis, provides arms and logistical support to its coalition allies, or to the coalition allies, in particular Saudi Arabia, and it is directly involved. In 2017, the United States carried out 131 airstrikes in Yemen, as compared with just 21 the previous year. So now I'd like to introduce the speakers who know far more than I do on this subject. I don't know if you have a particular order in mind, but the order that I have is, I guess maybe we'll start with Sama al-Hamdani, is a Yemeni who worked as a political officer at the Yemen Embassy in Washington. She's a director of Yemeniyati, a group focused on Yemen affairs, and she's also a political analyst and consultant. You can catch Sama on many television screens, given her analysis on the issue of our focus today on Yemen. And then we'll hear from Mr. Doug Bandow, Senior Fellow at the Cato Institute and political writer for Forbes and Huffington Post, among other publications. And he previously worked for the Reagan and Bush administrations on the national security staff. Finally, we have Jamal Khashoggi, a Saudi journalist and author, who served as deputy editor-in-chief for Arab News, the leading English newspaper in Saudi Arabia. And he was also editor-in-chief of Al-Watan newspaper in Saudi as well.